G'day everyone, we're just going to jump in. Welcome to the Konnichiwa Melbourne Podcast. This is episode number 2. I'm your host Jake. Today is the 26th of July 2025 and I'm recording this podcast at 11:04. It's also Saturday the 26th, so it's the weekend. Happy weekend. Hope everyone had a good week and enjoying the weekend. It's literally bucketing down with rain today. I'm just looking outside. Hi everyone on the YouTube video. It's bucketing down with rain outside, meaning it's raining a lot. It's quite heavy rain. It's not super heavy, but it's enough to make me not want to go outside and just kind of rug up all day and stay warm inside by the fire, have a hot chockey or a coffee and just relax. I love these kinds of days in winter, to be honest. Obviously in summer, like getting out and about and enjoying the warm weather and getting in the pool or going down to the beach. But obviously in the wintertime, we can't do those things. So it's kind of nice to stay inside and relax and turn off. So that's what I'm doing today. Or actually today, we're having a lot of friends and family and stuff come over. It's kind of Christmas in July. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before, but basically Christmas in July. Obviously in Australia, our summer is when Christmas is. So obviously in December, it's summertime in Australia and it's Christmas. So it's probably a bit weird coming from, Japanese people and European people, where obviously, and Americans, I guess, as well, where obviously winter, you have Christmas in winter. We don't have Christmas in winter here in Australia. It's summertime. The seasons are opposite. So we have a thing called Christmas in July in Australia, and it's kind of where we celebrate Christmas again. We don't really buy presents, and not everyone does it, but a lot of people do it. It's basically where you just, because it's cold here, we kind of like celebrate the true Christmas, I guess, the winter Christmas. We don't buy presents, but we kind of just have people over and celebrate and drink wine and things like that. Some people drink mulled wine, which is like hot, warm wine. We've done that in the past at friends' house and stuff, but we're not doing it this year. We're just having friends come over tonight and, family and friends and grandparents and stuff come over and just have a little bit of a celebration. So it's good. Looking forward to that. But obviously it's 11 a.m. in the morning right now. And I thought I might make a podcast for you all. So here we go. Obviously, this is my second podcast, so it's kind of going to be a little bit different to my first podcast that I did. So the first podcast was obviously, I had a script. It's my first time doing it, and I wanted to do as good a job as I could. And so I kind of wrote out a whole script and read it word for word, which was good. But again, it was a little bit, not unnatural, but it did feel a little bit forced, and it felt a little bit, when I listened to it back to see how I could improve upon it, it definitely felt like I was reading from a script, and that's good in some instances, but I kind of want this podcast to be a little bit more free-flowing and off the top of my head. So this time I've just written down a few dot points of what I want to talk about, but mostly it's just going to be me chatting like this in a natural way. So hopefully it goes well and you guys learn a few things. I guess what I wanted to talk about today was that it's been really cold, as I mentioned just a moment ago, and I wanted to talk about winter in Australia. I guess what I wanted to talk about was what's been happening and what Australians do in winter and what the go is. So we're going to jump right into that today. So as I said, recently it's been bloody cold, but I think the coldest days, it's going to gradually get warmer and warmer now. I'm hoping. It doesn't seem like that, but a few weeks ago we had the winter solstice, which was essentially the shortest day of the year, meaning the sun rose in the morning and it set early at night. So basically what that means is it was a short day. So the amount of sunlight that we had on that day was the shortest, the most little amount that we're going to have for the year. So it was the quickest day of the year. and that's called the winter solstice. And I think that was in June. And basically, once that day passes, then it's meant to slowly get warmer and warmer. So it's it's the shortest day of winter, shortest day of the year. Weird. I think in Europe they have like some days. In Australia it didn't really feel like out of the ordinary. It didn't feel any different from a normal day. But when I was living in Canada, and also from what I've heard in Europe, basically the sun only comes up for like a couple hours of the day. So when I was living in Canada, I feel like the sun set, the sun went away at like 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, and it was such a bizarre feeling because it's only like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's already pitch black. Like, it was such a strange feeling coming from Australia. I lived in Canada for 6 months in 2016, 17, so almost 10 years ago now. I lived in Canada. I did a ski season over there, which I'll get into a little bit more later on. But from roughly November to April of 2016, 2017, I lived in Kelowna in Canada and did a working holiday, and I worked on it at a ski mountain. So that was a really, really fun experience, and I'm sure I'll talk more about that, but that's not really the topic of today. But I just want, moving back to what I was talking about, winter in Australia, I guess a huge misconception, a huge misunderstanding about Australia that foreign people have is that Australia is warm all year round. And I guess that's kind of true, but definitely not true here in Melbourne. But in some parts of Australia, like Darwin, Queensland, I guess, Perth, maybe not so much. I had this image of Perth being really hot all year round, but I was speaking to a student of mine the other day, and he mentioned he was living previously in Perth, and he mentioned that Perth gets quite cold as well. And so that was a surprise to me, because I guess my image of Perth is that it has just beautiful beaches and sunlight and sun rays all year round, but I guess that's not the case. But a lot of foreigners, like a lot of my American friends, when I've spoken to them and I've mentioned that Australia gets relatively cold, they're always like, what? No way. I thought Australia was like hot all year round. And no, that's not the case. Anyone that's ever been to Melbourne or lives in Melbourne. I'm just doing a podcast, Mace. Is that all right? I'm just doing a podcast. Yeah. Is that all right? I'll come up in like 15 minutes, maybe. Sorry, guys. That was my sister yelling out. I didn't mention to anyone that I'm doing a podcast. So, as I said, we're having a party tonight and they're kind of getting ready for it. And I'm slacking off. I'm making a podcast, not helping anyone. I am a terrible brother and son. Oh, well. This is more important for now. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, a lot of my American friends and, other foreign friends that I have are always surprised when I mention that Australia gets really cold, actually, surprisingly, or at least in Melbourne, in the southern part of Australia, like Sydney, Melbourne, Tasmania. It definitely gets really, really cold. But I think potentially Australians have a bit of a warped sense of cold or coldness, winter. Because as soon as it gets below like 15 degrees here in Melbourne, everyone starts complaining and being like, oh my God, how cold is it? It's absolutely freezing today. It's like, mate, it's 15 degrees. Like, it's definitely cold, trust me. But for a foreigner's point of view, a foreigner's perspective, 15 degrees sounds like warm. But I don't know what it is, but in Melbourne, 15 degrees and below, it feels like it's bloody freezing. I don't know if that's just me, because obviously I used to live in Canada, and also I've lived in Japan for a few years, and it got to like negative, in the negatives. So it would get to 0 degrees and below, and that was cold. But it doesn't feel, I'm sure it definitely is cold. It's obviously colder than Melbourne and Australia, but at the time, it didn't feel any colder. Like, they both felt really cold, and I guess that's just based on perception of where you are. It changes. Like in Japan, what's cold in Japan isn't necessarily, or is really, really cold here in Melbourne, and what's cold in Australia is not considered cold in Europe or Japan. I guess it just depends on where you are. and how you've acclimatized, how you've gotten used to that environment. But yeah, it gets really, really cold in Melbourne, Victoria, and New South Wales. And I guess it gets cold enough to the point where it actually snows as well. So not a lot of people know this. And again, when I tell foreign friends about this, they lose their mind. Like when I tell them Australia has ski mountains, they think that I'm lying to them. But genuinely, we have a few ski mountains that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more. I'm not sure. I doubt there's ski mountains up in Brisbane and Queensland, but in Victoria, in like the Victorian countryside and also parts of New South Wales, there are like it's quite a mountainous region. There's lots of mountains and it gets quite cold, and obviously mountains being quite high, snow does fall. So we do have a few ski mountains in those areas, but they're not super like they're not I wouldn't recommend you go to them, to be honest. My family, when we were younger, used to do some ski trips to those mountains, particularly Mount Buller, which is one that's about 4 hours away from Melbourne. We used to do ski trips there every so often, and it just wasn't worth it, to be honest. Like, it was fun, don't get me wrong. We were kids, and my brother and sister were there, and we'd all go skiing. And my sister was about this big. She was tiny. My sister, the age gap between us is, I think, well, I'm 28, and how old's Macy? Macy is 20 now, so 8 years. So she was quite a bit smaller than me when we were kids, and it used to be so funny watching her just absolutely fang it, absolutely fly, go really quickly down the mountain. Because obviously when you're skiing, you do like I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you are skiers being from Japan, but obviously there's the pizza, which is where how to stop. So I'm not sure how you guys would have been taught about this, but when you are learning to ski, my family are all skiers. My brother had a phase where he was a snowboarder, but he came back to skiing. He came back to the good side. Snowboarding is the dark side. So yeah, when you go to stop with skis, basically you push your legs out and push the snow away, creating a kind of like pizza shape. And then when you want to go forward, we used to call it French fries, random as, but basically French fries. So if you're watching on the video, French fries are straight away, so the skis are pointing straight. And when you pizza, it turns into a slice of pizza. So you push your legs out and you stop, and you slow down. So my sister didn't really know how to pizza because obviously she was just learning. So she used to be, I don't know, maybe like 5, 6 years old, and she was hammering it down the mountain. She was going so bloody quickly, and she did hit a big pole one day, and took herself out, but she was all right. She ended up being all right. But yeah, Mount Buller, where we used to ski, and there's other mountains like Thredbo, off the top of my head, which is in New South Wales, Mount Hotham. So there's a few places you can ski in Australia, but the snow is not fluffy, it's not powdery, it's actually quite icy. And I think it's getting worse and worse. They have snow machines up there. I'm not sure if you have them in Japan, but snow machines basically make artificial snow. And because we obviously it doesn't get cold enough to make lots and lots of snow, so they have to assist the natural snow with artificial snow or snow that's been created. And basically what those snow machines do is just pump out cold air, which then freezes and becomes like an icy kind of snow. So anyway, it's not powdery like in Japan or in Canada, but it gets the job done. You're still able to ski and learn to ski. But it's really, really, really expensive and not very accessible. Obviously, people living in Melbourne, it's a 4-hour drive. So, I mean, a lot of people do it, but you need to be quite committed, and it's not like a normal thing for Australians to do. It's quite a high class thing. So you need to be, I guess, wealthy or rich to be able to do it. And so the average Australian family, especially these days, is not able to ski, or they don't have any experience skiing. And if they do, they've probably gone overseas because it's virtually the same price to ski overseas versus skiing in Australia. That's why I'm sure some of you live in Hokkaido or have been to Hokkaido, and it's like a mini Australia. There's so many Australians at ski mountains around the world, especially up in those parts. And so it's just easier and more enjoyable for Australians to ski overseas, which is what they tend to do. For example, it's the same price to fly to New Zealand basically as it is to ski at Mount Buller. A lot of Australians, and where we first kind of learnt to ski was in Queenstown in New Zealand, my family. We used to do a family holiday there every year or so. And we used to ski at mountains like Coronet Peak and the Remarkables and places like that. And it was far superior snow, and it ended up like averaging out to being almost the same price as it is to go to Mount Buller. And you get to jump on a plane, so there's all the fun involved with jumping on a plane and flying overseas and doing that. So my family and a lot of Australian families probably tend to go to places like New Zealand and Japan, as I was saying before, to ski. A day pass, for example, at Mount Buller is $140 to $180 depending on the day and on the season. If it's school holidays, obviously it's going to be more expensive. School holidays is when school students have their break, their holiday, vacation. So it's going to be more expensive because there's more demand to go skiing on those times. So they push the prices up to make more money. And then on the weekends, it's for a day pass. So one day to get on the lifts is $210 to $230 approximately. So when you add that up, if you go up for the weekend, obviously, if you've got a family of 5, you're paying $2,000 for ski tickets, and it's just so much money. So you have to be quite wealthy in Australia to ski. It's not just a normal thing to do if you're going to ski in Australia. It's still worth doing if you're going to do it one time. If you're coming here for a holiday, maybe not actually. If you're coming from Japan, Japan's got almost probably the best snow in the world with Canada and most powdery. So it's probably not worth skiing in Australia. And I guess it's not what Australia's known for, but some people do ski in the wintertime, and it's surprising to some people that we do have ski mountains. I'm not sure if you guys knew that, but yeah. In the mind of Australians, I would say that winter is probably our least favourite season. I think most Australians like being outdoors and doing things outside because obviously in summertime it's hot, but it's not as humid as Japan is. So you can go outside and it's still enjoyable. Whereas in Japan, being outside in summertime in Kyoto City or Osaka, you feel like you're going to melt, and probably the same in Tokyo, but it's so humid to the point where it's not enjoyable at all. Like you're just searching constantly for somewhere that has an air conditioner so that you can just relax, or at least that was my experience when I was in Japan. But in Australia, it does obviously get really hot, but it's more so the sun rays that are hot. It's not like the air that's hot. The humidity is not there. And so, yeah, I guess in wintertime, moving back to what I was saying, a lot of Australians just tend to be homebodies and enjoy spending time inside. Like today, it's a good excuse. You don't feel like you have to go outside. You feel like it's okay to just relax and enjoy time at home. And a lot of Australian families play board games or watch movies. There's no real urge to leave the house. So it's a lot of family time, sitting by the fire. A lot of families might have fires going. My family has like an outdoor fire pit, which we sit around when it's not raining. So hopefully we can turn that on today. But yeah, a lot of people are homebodies, meaning they just stay inside in winter. The other thing about winter that Australians are obsessed with, or at least people in Victoria, is sport. So in Japan, obviously, there's this sense of doing sport all year round. Like you choose one sport when you're in middle school or primary school or whatever, and you dedicate yourself to that. So you do that one sport all year round. In Australia, we don't really have that system. It's encouraged for kids to do lots of different activities and lots of different sports. And the way that sports in Australia is broken up is that there are summer sports and there are winter sports. And summer sports are things like cricket, tennis. What else do they play in summer off the top of my head? Swimming, those type of sports that you can play outside. And then in winter, we have a sport in Australia called Australian football, or AFL. That's a really, really popular one. We also have hockey. Soccer is a winter sport. Rugby is a winter sport. They're the main four that I can think of off the top of my head. But basically, Australian students play one sport in summer, and then once it starts getting cold, those sports stop, and then they start playing their winter sport, which is really interesting. And I was talking to some Japanese friends about this, and they're like, how do Australians get good at sport then if you don't do it all the time? And I guess my counter argument to that is that we play a lot of sports, so we learn a lot of different skills, and there's a chance for you to start afresh. You don't have to feel like you're locked in. In Australia, we like to, I guess, give people opportunity to learn and develop their skills broadly. It's not as focused on just becoming as best as we can at one thing, which is, I guess, maybe how Japanese people think. I'm not sure, but from what I heard speaking to Japanese friends and people like that, is that there's really a focus on dedication and mastery in regards to sport in Japan, which obviously Australians absolutely love sport, but I guess we just have a difference in thinking in that regard. And so, yeah, it's just interesting how we consider and think about things. And that's one of the differences, I guess, is it gives people a broad range of opportunity to develop themselves. And so, yeah, I grew up playing Australian football and hockey, and my brother played rugby in the winter. And rugby is more of I don't know why my brother played it. I think he just had mates that were playing it in middle school, but rugby is kind of considered more of a northern sport, I guess, in Australia. Like places like New South Wales and Queensland tend to be more rugby heavy, rugby dominated states where that's the main sport in wintertime, whereas Victoria is very much obsessed with Australian football, which is basically our national sport here. And if you come to Melbourne or Victoria, definitely pick a footy team and look into it, because it's a great way to make friends, and going to the footy is a really, really fun experience in wintertime as well. I haven't been this year, but I'm planning to go in the next little bit. But if you have a footy team, a lot of conversations here at work or like just with friends and stuff revolve around which footy team's winning, what's this player doing, that player doing, kind of thing. So it's definitely a good way, something, if you can get into it, if you like it, it's a great way to have conversations with Australian people and kind of break into Australian circles. So if you're trying to make mates or you're interested in becoming friends with Australians or particularly Victorians, AFL is a big key to doing that potentially. But I think that's kind of all I really wanted to talk about today. I don't really have anything else on the list. It's kind of been a bit of a random podcast. I've jumped here, there, and everywhere. But as I said, I've got other things to do today, and my sister was yelling at me just a moment ago to come and help out with whatever they need to do. So I'm probably going to call the podcast here. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you have any feedback. Today, obviously, I was just speaking off the top of my head, so I kind of jumped all over the place, meaning my thought process wasn't very coherent. It wasn't very linear. And so apologies if you have absolutely no idea what I was talking about. That's okay. It's all good. Neither do I. I'll just give it a whirl, give it a go. But yeah, thanks for listening. If you have any feedback, please let me know. Please check out my social media if you're interested. I have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that. And I post videos about Australian English and Australian culture. So if you're interested in that, please check it out. Also, if you're interested in one-on-one English lessons, I have a few spots as well there. I'm always looking for new students who are interested in Australian English. And so if you are interested in that, shoot me a DM, send me a message, check out my website. I am usually available in the mornings and at night time. So if that suits your schedule and if you want to improve your English and just have conversations with me, I love chatting and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So please get in touch. that's all. Have a great day. Enjoy. I'm pretty sure it's really, really hot in Japan, so stay cool in the air conditioned department store because that's where I used to hang out in summertime. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, guys. Cheers.